we're not taught how to really optimize our own systems, which are built for times like these. The tools that you'll learn on Rama TV give you these very effective skill sets to increase your strength, endurance, and calm in any situation. Hi, Reality Riffing. Really honored to sit down with Sazha Alexandra Ramos, who is a veteran, and a Navy veteran, and a woman who's doing great things in the world, including working very actively with veterans in recovery. And she has worked in the highest levels of government to bring the needs and the concerns of really what is at the source of recovery and at the source of addiction, which is trauma, and which is not being kind of presented with the kind of choices that are necessary to live a healthy life. And she was a veteran. She had and is working with substance use disorder in recovery, and has a beautiful story. I shed a couple tears while she's telling her story. Of course, much to the chagrin of the Virgo, I shed a couple tears because it was just so touching. She has now branched off and created her own organization where they're helping to get veterans the help that they need to recover, to live a healthy and powerful life. She's used the technology of Kundalini Yoga in her path of discovery, and it's been amazing to have her a part of the Rama community. She's also gearing up as a young BIPOC woman for a very promising political career. I hope you enjoy my dynamic conversation with Sazha. Hello, Reality Riffing. Hello, Rama TV. I am so honored to be joined on this 11/11 Veterans Day by an incredible woman, an incredible practitioner, and veteran, Sazha Alexandra Ramos, and she's been a part of our community for some time now, and has really brought such an incredible, rich background. She is the founder of a national nonprofit recovery organization, Resources, which provides education for all pathways of recovery. Her professional experience includes working for the Chief of Naval Operations, Awards Board, Department of Veterans Affairs, Interagency Care and Benefits Coordination Office, and at the U.S. House of Representatives Wounded Warrior Program. She has a huge career ahead of her in politics, and I'm honored to be here with you, Sasha. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Guru Jagat. I'm so elated and over the moon to just be here with you. You know, I've been a part of the Rama community for the last few years, and community is just so important. So thank you for all you do. And this is really a dream come true for me.
Thank you. I was, I don't know if it came up on my phone or if it came up on some memory. I think it came up on a memory of you. I think the first time that I met you in person with you, and I believe your sister, or was it a friend? That's what I thought. And it just came up right, a couple days before this interview. So I thought it was very auspicious, but thank you for everything you've done. And I would love to just start where, kind of what brought you on this journey into joining the Navy, and also what's happened since. Love to just hear your journey.
Yes. So let's just dive right in, right? Because it's Veterans Day, and I'm a really intense Scorpio, and we just have to go there.
Yeah.
So I just celebrated 6 years of recovery from substance use disorder on the 8th of November.
Congratulations.
And thank you so much. And what that means is I haven't had a minor mood altering substance in the last 6 years. And a part of that has been, one, because of 12-step programs, but also because of the Rama community and Kundalini Yoga.
Yeah.
So I just want to start with that. And I'm from Piscataway, New Jersey, a small town in Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl, and I love the beach, right? And I love the boardwalk. And I grew up, just like any teenager watching Real World. I watched Real World. I was like, I want to go to Pasha, New York City. I hopped the train at 16 years old with my sister's ID, getting tattoos and tongue piercings and just all the things as a teenager. And I was having a good old time, a really, really good old time. And I was using substances as a teenager. And I was still a high performing student. I was still
Yeah.
going to school, still showing up every day. And it was tough in my Filipino American household. My parents didn't really like what I was doing. And I actually moved out of my house when I was 16 years old.
Mm.
I didn't run away. I was at my best friend's house. They knew where
Mm-hmm.
I was.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard, I imagine, today. And I have so much love and gratitude for my folks because they had to deal with me.
Right.
I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I was always kind of born with that consciousness of like, I have to just try stuff. I need to just do this. And it wasn't about them. It was really about my self explorative journey and the need to like experience my humanness. And it took me to using substances. And reading about the limelight and all those parties, I'm like, that's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and I was listening to the when you had Peter on, and it was
Yeah.
just like, wow, like those, and I see that today as like those are spiritual experiences. When you go into a club and you hear that wah 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 wah
Yep.
and you feel it through your feet, oh my god, it's amazing. So I followed that. I followed that a lot.
Yeah.
By the time I was 18, I started using heroin. And, it started from a friend whose mother had cancer, and, they were passing around opioids. And the progression of heroin had started, and I was like, this isn't me anymore. And I decided to join the Navy because I was like, I want to do something better with my life. I know I deserve better. How do I become financially stable for my parents? And how do I do better for myself? So um, I didn't discuss it with anybody. My father laughs because I told him I joined the Navy, and he goes, "There's no way. You're too short."
You're 4'11"?
I'm 4'11", but big energy over here.
Yeah, big energy, big energy.
And within 2 months, I was gone. I was gone, and to be really honest, I had no idea what I signed up for. I knew there was the call, right? There was this call to be of service and to be of duty, that comes from my Asian American heritage, and then also that was about like me joining the Navy too. And obviously, I stopped using substances when I was in the Navy. And I think that was one of the first times I felt like I was at home because I had a chance to shine my shoes, get in my uniform, get
Mm,
my hair in a bun, and I got to travel the world.
mm,
My background is in information technology. I lived in Pensacola, I lived in Chicago, and then I ended up in Italy, Sicily, Italy, at the Naval Air Station Sigonella. And in Sicily is where my career ended very quickly. And I was in a severe car accident. So I'm a non-combat veteran where I hit my head on a glass when a vehicle collided into us. And I lost vision in my right eye. I was unconscious. In the Italian hospitals back then, they were smoking cigarettes. So
right.
healthcare was still really different. And what came of it was a traumatic brain injury, a post-traumatic stress disorder, and a sclerobuckle. So what happened in my eye was a retinal detachment.
Mm,
Um, so I looked like a pirate.
yeah. I'm sure you looked good with an eye patch, though.
We're gonna have to ask some of my ex-boyfriends, but
You worked it. You worked
yes,
it.
send you pictures later. So I have to go back to the United States. I go to the Wounded Warrior Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland, and I get connected. And I live in the barracks with men who have lost their arms and legs, combat veterans,
Wow.
um, who have really been through some really intense stuff. And I was maybe the only the second woman in the barracks.
Wow.
So there's that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
of just being not feeling included in that space, and not being able to connect with those combat war veterans that I have so much like deep love and gratitude for being able to risk that. And some of my best friends are Purple Heart recipients. Um, but I couldn't find myself there with them. And I couldn't relate. And that was really hard. And
Yeah.
when you're diagnosed with a post traumatic stress disorder, a major depressive disorder, your eye is falling out, and the doctors are prescribing you so much medication, you just do what they tell you to do. Right. And I do what I'm told to do because that's what I'm taught to do. And that's what made us successful.
Yeah.
So I end up getting out of the service, medically discharged with all these diagnoses, over medicated, given pain pills and opioid medication. And then here I am again, addicted to a substance.
Yeah.
And a lot of that today, what I've learned is that we just live in a society that wants us to be addicted to stuff.
Yes.
There is a power out there that is using this as a way of control.
Yeah.
And for all my friends and folks out there, there are so many tips and tools and things that I just want to provide to the world, and even just be there as a resource to just help anybody through this time. Veterans, people in recovery, we are always dealing with other mental illnesses and trauma, and so many other issues like homelessness as well.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I was addicted to substances, my opioids that the doctors were prescribing me, and many other substances as well. I was working at the House of Representatives. I worked for the big VA, and I was still using substances. And everyone thought it looked great on paper. I bought my first house when I was 22 and really wildly successful. But
Yeah.
inside of me, there was something wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for my sister, who is a nurse, who was the first person that I could actually go to and say, like, hey, I need help. And it still baffles me today that that's one of the hardest things for people to do, is
Yeah.
ask for help.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning that today.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of my recovery story, and part of the community is being able to ask for help. So I know
Yes.
my sister's watching. I love you dearly.
Mm.
She's my favorite nurse, and I asked her in 2 rooms over here in my parents' house right now. Like, I need you to take me to treatment, and I drove myself. And my family. I didn't get treatment through the VA, which was really frustrating. And I know a lot of veterans have that trouble of going to a place that they think is going to take care of them,
Yeah.
but then not getting the care, and then feeling traumatized that they're not taking care of you. It's
Right.
repeating the wounds that we might have even that's why we went to the military, to be taken care of. So it was a tough journey. And today I really just want to be there to support my brothers and sisters in arms that are going through anything, that need help, that want support in any way. I really believe in meeting people where they're at,
Yeah.
and that recovery can happen in so many ways. I have used medication. I have used 12-step programs. I have delved deep into shamanic journeys and angels and intuitive things. And then I'm here now on my pathway to Kundalini Yoga. And I just want people to know that it's out there and it's here for you and it exists.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I just, I know we've spoken before about how much I believe in you and your destiny, and how many people you are serving and are going to continue to help along this journey. And I know this has been a big year for you of transition and founding your own organization. Can you talk a little bit about that and your mission and what you guys are doing? And I know it's early days, but I would love to hear what you're up to and where you're headed.
Absolutely. So I have co-founded Recovery Organization Resources with my partner, Rogan O'Donnell, who is just an amazing partner, who's really, he met me actually at my past job. And he always told me, you need to be doing this yourself. And so it's at the advice of other people and my mentors that I kind of just keep going. I never saw myself as being the one to lead, or to be an advocate or a voice. And here I am, November 11th, 2020.
So amazing.
It's so amazing. And so our tagline is Hear Us Roar, right? Because we know that big pharma and all these pharmaceutical companies, they spent billions of dollars targeting um, communities. West Virginia was totally wiped out by
Yeah.
the opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
I know kids from my own high school that have just died from overdose, way too many young people.
Yes.
And we need to, I want to get on the other side of this, right? How do we start changing all of this? How do we start connecting as humans so that this doesn't happen anymore? Because it's going to keep happening, from
Yeah.
the crack epidemic to the opioids to whatever is next, technology. I don't know. We have to stop the cycle now. So we do education, information. Something too that we're committed to doing is we're raising $1 million for Black, Indigenous, people of color, and veterans. And if you know a veteran that needs access to this fund, especially today, that can support their recovery housing journey, I'll make sure you get my information.
Amazing, amazing. And so you guys are basically kind of full service supporting particularly BIPOC veterans to kind of go on the journey of self discovery and on the journey of recovery. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, and so we're not providing direct services, we're connecting you with the direct services. We're
Yes.
partnering with organizations that want to start serving this community. And then hopefully in the near future, me just being able to teach tangible things, like things that you can learn right now
Yeah.
that are going to change the way that you're thinking.
Yeah, yeah. I was watching a TikTok the other day. I'm curious your, kind of take on this, but I was watching a TikTok and this guy, he was in an army barrack and he was going to every single guy in his, kind of unit. And he was like, what do you have to say to your army recruiter or your recruiter? And every single guy got in the camera and was like, fuck you, you didn't tell me the truth. And I just was kind of, I was really like affected by it because I just felt just, this kind of like you say, this kind of perpetration and this kind of a very weird kind of situation where the recruiters have certain, they have to. There's a bottom line for them. They're going into communities where people are very disenfranchised, and I just was kind of like hit with like these young men who felt so lied to by their recruiters. I'm just curious what your opinion on this part of the kind of complex, because I think it basically drives into some of these horrible habits and disenfranchising and alienation and just all the things that happen kind of in the post, during and post service.
Yeah, so I would say that I had one really amazing recruiter, and then I didn't have one that was so amazing. And I definitely felt perpetrated against as well, and that they just don't give clear information. And when you have to make decisions, they're not available to, my recruiter wasn't available to help me make that decision. And when you're signing your life, which is so serious, and I didn't think about this when I was 18 years old. I was just trying to leave my house and do something better for myself.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much of your life is given to other folks. So I know really amazing recruiters, but it's also really sad. That's kind of the piece of the unseen veteran that I wanted to share with you about. Is I met a veteran over the summer that was looking for help with his benefits, and he hurt his knee of his service. And there's a lots of hoops and things around getting care. But he told me that his recruiter was the one that told him to go AWOL, to leave. And that's why he left. So we have these people in positions of power, and no one's holding them accountable.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, how do you, what are solutions in terms of how we really change some of this? I mean, because more about I'm curious if the recruiters are kind of privatized in some way, like they have no one to answer to when it actually comes to, am I right about this?
So they're part of the Navy, and they're part
Okay,
of the
okay,
system, and
okay.
they have to make a quota.
Yeah,
To my understanding, is they
yeah,
have to make a quota. So I imagine they have to do what they can to make their numbers,
yeah,
and that is also about the needs of whatever's going on in the world in the service. I was really grateful to get into an information technology job, but as a highly intelligent woman, what if there was only a lower level job or like a mechanic job that I wouldn't be interested in? I would be put into that job, and I'm stuck with that job for 4 years.
yeah. Which, in one way, you could, just zooming out, there's something powerful about doing things that we're not good at, or that we don't, there is something about that training, I think, that like gives you grit, in ways. And certainly like in terms of startup culture, I think it's always something I talk about. It's like, do things you're not good at, like force yourself to do it, because it makes you stronger. But, these are kind of the bigger life choices that I think all of us can, when you're thinking of like the choices you made when you were 17 and a half or whatever. I mean, you're not making choices that are really any kind of understanding about what you're getting yourself into. So talk more about these unseen veterans. What's your experience, and what are you guys trying to do, to expose some of this?
I'm trying to see them. I want to know the veteran that doesn't feel like they're a part of. I want to know the veteran that, isn't in combat but maybe had an injury but doesn't feel like they deserve benefits, and that they
Mm-hmm.
don't like reach this moral standard that they don't deserve care. This summer I was in a women's issues class and also presenting, and it said that most women do not identify as a veteran because they are ashamed. And that was me for a long time because I didn't fit this mold. So I shied away from this whole community of support, because I just couldn't find myself here. I couldn't find myself. I didn't know, because I'm non-combat, like it's so uncomfortable to be with other combat veterans and not feel like you're good enough because you didn't lose an arm or a leg.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, it's so complex, but yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That it's like, of course, I mean, your retina is, coming off of your eye, which is a very painful and really scary thing. But because of the difference in the way we serve. I mean, I think this is also comes to kind of service in general. It's like a lot of people I feel like are they don't know necessarily how they can serve, either a bigger, their community, or being a better citizen, or being, and I think people just get kind of overwhelmed. And obviously we have the narcissism is rampant, but, and then they feel like if they're not doing something big, then it doesn't matter. But this is just not true.
And so I would really challenge our audience to, when you say thank you to a veteran for their service, ask them how their service was. What was it like? Do you even want to be thanked? And see them in that way, because there's a lot of unseen battle scars, trauma, things that happen, losing your brothers and sisters, so much that the world just doesn't prepare a person to have those experiences in a compounded way.
Yeah.
And the responsibility that is put on the shoulders of 18-year-olds and young people of America.
I mean, it's really, I think when you're looking at a lot of the current kind of Gen Z, complaints, and, our current 17, 18, 19, year olds who are like, dancing on TikTok, it's just hard to kind of like, I mean, it's hard to, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance between like the 18-year-old who's, dancing on TikTok, and the 18-year-old who is, in some sort of active service. It's a big gap, and I think it just creates a total different, literally like a different reality.
My partner has a 17-year-old, and I just think to myself, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty, it's a different, it's a whole, and I do think that like this is, this is when you're looking at kind of this younger generation, we do have to, things, something's going to have to give in terms of some of the grit that has to be developed in order for the big mission for these young people to take on a planet in crisis.
And I think they are going to be that, and I want to be a part of stewarding them. I also intern at the at Rutgers, where I'm working with Gen Z every day, and they're this group that I'm working with wrote a 55-page true inclusion report on the way that they felt the teachers were and the deans were treating them, and they did it in a really graceful, politically done way where they gave them the research and the data, and now they're requesting for the curriculum to be changed. So, it's happening in
Wow.
places
Wow.
all over the world.
Wow. That is so cool. That's so cool. What, what, what do you think, in terms of like looking at the current events and the political landscape? And, this is the first time that America's not been in active war, which is I think, an interesting kind of moment. And, I think it's good. I hope we stay in this. But what's your opinion on kind of just what you're seeing trends? Obviously working with young people. We've been a highly politicized year here in America. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about conservatism, tradition, as opposed to progression, and how we can kind of hold both of those things. What's your, give us a little political, and just current event kind of, your take on it.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, this Guru Jagat, there's still a war on our consciousness going on, right? And that is the most important thing that we have today is our consciousness. So that's going on. But aside from that, in other words, I read a statistic that there's 30% of the population is baby boomers and 30% is millennials, right? So this could be one of the reasons why we're so highly polarized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to say also that, there's a part of me that really loves tradition, that really respects the chain of command, duty, and just that working hard, right? Like, I really like that. I actually really like working hard. But I also know that my experience shows that just working hard isn't enough. And that there needs to be a change. And that there's parts of me that are really, really progressive, and then are parts of me that really, really, really are conservative. So, as a person that's really interested in running for a political office, where do I fit in? And where does the rest of the world fit in? And where are you guys? Because I need to know you. Because when mainstream media is just here and here, we will never get anything done by not sharing in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking about this with Huddy Jeevan, just that, and it's something I talk a lot about, but if you can't see a leader of any sort, whether it's a politician or some other leader, and see from them, whether you like them or you like their politics or you like the way they talk or they walk or whatever your, kind of drama is, if you can't get from them some sort of learning, whether it's something not to do or something to do, then you're not in a neutral kind of space, and you're actually not using the opportunity to grow. This is one of my big issues with what's going on right now in the polarization, is that you can't just dump your shadow on a leader and say that they're all bad, and not look at the shadow of the society, the culture, the what's gotten us here, decisions that have been made for half a century that got us here, and all this kind of stuff. So I do think we have, in my little old lady grief about it is that is basically that it's about us not understanding history. And not being educated in history and how cycles of time and how things work, because if you don't understand that, then you can't contextualize yourself and make progress in the current moment, basically.
And, I've just been exploring a lot of that. I've been exploring the systems and the history, and it is really dense and it's hard to decipher, but we need people deciphering it. We need new leadership that can synthesize this information and get it out to folks so they can understand it too. And even for me, I'm overwhelmed by what's going on. And I feel a duty and a sense of responsibility to this, and it's still tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I like what you say, synthesize. I mean, ultimately, like that is that there's very few minds, although they're out there. And I think that I appreciate your call to this is like really, political and activist minds that are able to look at what's happening and move through the past timeline, the present timeline, and the future timeline to help us make true progression, not just, a rebrand of some, a bunch of more nefarious bullshit, but like actual true progression. And I think I do think the future is bright. I agree with you. And I'm interviewing a lot of young politicians who are in your generation who are making major headway. So it's very exciting. What are you thinking about in terms of your political career? Like what's the first step?
I'm right now. I'm in with a course called Civic Engagement and Public Policy with Syracuse University. So they are nonpartisan and they take veterans and they teach them how to run campaigns. So I took a break from the course this week to just today to come and talk with you all. But I'm learning a lot about fundraising, right, and how other veterans have been doing the same thing because the thread that brings us together is that service.
Yeah.
So I'm using the tools out there from Run for Something, She Should Run, and all these places that help younger people run and figure out how they want to serve in a political fashion to just start exploring. So next week I'm going to call the New Jersey State Senator and see if he'll just meet with me so I can start talking to him about, hey, what are some of the issues that are happening in our district?
Yeah, and I think, if nothing else, what's happening around the American process, the voting process, and whatever side everyone's opinion lands on that, which would very much be determined by what kind of news you're watching, which is part of the issue. But I think people are actually learning so much more and engaging so much more civically than ever, definitely here in America, but I think around the world, this is a trend. And, something I was thinking about is like these the state legislator, am I saying that right? Legislature? Yeah, legislature. That seems to be, now that we're kind of looking at this, the electoral college, that's like a very powerful position and it's an elected position. And so anyways, just this week, I'm like, wow, this is an interesting kind of political move. What do you, I mean, is there something that you're favoring in terms of your first step in a run?
Yes, the New Jersey State Senator. It's District 17 in New Jersey. It's up in 2022, and I've been studying the people in the area and just going to start connecting with them. Something I found really interesting when I'm studying the landscape is that these people have been in office for like 45 years. And so when we're calling for change, are these leaders able to make these changes? And do these leaders reflect who their constituents are? And I want to say I live in a very, very diverse town of Indians, Asians, Black people, all different folks, and our leadership doesn't reflect that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one of my big concerns right now politically is how can if you're putting in yogic science, it's like the Piscean age and the Aquarian age, the people who are embedded in this old era, it's almost impossible for them to create true progress and change. So, I think just to break that kind of trance for everyone, if somebody has been embedded in political office for 40, 50 years, it is impossible. Their whole just go to their nervous system. And besides all the kind of backroom deals and what they bought and sold and, selling their soul and all that kind of stuff, it's impossible for them neurologically to go into the next phase of progression. I mean, I know that in neuroscience, let alone in what, actually dealing with their politic. So this is really important, and I think people are sick of it. And you have a lot of millennial voters that are engaged now. So I'm all about this. I'm going to campaign. I'll come over there and campaign for you.
We're going to need everyone's support, and it's not about even me. It's just we need that new narrative. We need people fighting for issues that are important. Something that I'm doing tomorrow is that they want to put another warehouse in my town, in the only place that there are trees anymore here. We don't need any more warehouses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, I think a lot of times we think of politics as this big macro thing, but it's the smaller community-based politic that actually makes a change in your everyday life, which I really believe that so many of these senators and Congress people have forgotten that, like, they are here, they are in active service to their community, and it's I think a kind of one of the big travesties of modern politic is that that's really not being shown and represented and kind of kept real on the daily.
So U.S. Senators they're campaigning all the time. Those are really expensive seats, and you need to fundraise a lot of money. And something that I heard today in my course is that when you donate to a campaign, you're donating to the vision. You're donating to a person who wants to engage in public service. So don't think of it as like you're giving money to this person. You're giving money to a cause. You're giving money to a vision, and hopefully their vision is the vision that you want for a better world.
And the more money, I mean, depending on the candidate, but I think in your case and in some of these more grassroots campaigns, the more money you individually give or are able to give, the less money they have to take from bigger kind of donors that then, they owe something to. And so I think that's another way to look at it as well.
I looked up what the salary was for a state senator, and it's a part-time job, and it's $49,000. And that doesn't even cover my master's degree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
The things that I'll be dealing with in whatever fashion, it doesn't pay. The salary doesn't pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's service. I mean, it's service. And of course, there are people in the political kind of trajectory that are there because they're trying to push a trajectory of a career forward, which, is important. But there are also a lot of people that are there that aren't going to go any further than that kind of level of government, that are there to serve. And so I feel like, for the first time in my kind of adult life, I feel like that's more transparent. Like, people are understanding that more than ever. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's the same thing like right in academia, where if you want a PhD, it probably means you're going to teach, but that means you have to be on top of your game if you want to be an expert at what you do, right? So how are these politicians like staying on their game? I want to say that the state senator in my district has done some amazing things, really, really, really amazing things. But I also don't know him personally. I don't know what else is going on. So it's kind of like how do you progress and how do you keep learning and serving your constituents if you don't know what to do, So I think it is a really interesting topic.
Well, I think also with the technocrats and the oncoming smart cities and artificial intelligence, and how much even our population is going to change from different parts of the world because of geopolitical crisis, because of coronavirus, because of, I mean, there's a whole de-urbanization that's happening right now, which we would have been more urbanized than ever if 2020 hadn't happened. And so I'm like watching, I'm driving around, I'm in the country right now, and I'm driving around, and all these young people are buying hobby farms and like moving out of the city. And I mean, I just think it's a fascinating time to be serving your community, because the needs and the what is required for us to survive, let's just be honest, is completely different than it was even a year ago.
Hmm. Hmm. It's everything's changing, and I just want to say the revolution is not going to be televised, right? And mainstream media does not reflect what's going on in local communities. My sister and my mother both work at hospitals, and the stories that they tell me and the actual like lived experience of folks is not being shared. So, I'm excited to just dive deeper into my community and learn, like, meet my neighbors. I don't even know my neighbors. But I want to hear, like, if the elderly here don't get the services that they need, and maybe that's the people that I need to serve. So it's very fascinating.
It really is. And I know I was pushing you around this politic thing, and I'm very excited that in any way my political stage mom pushiness has, um, has gotten us here, because the people are going to be so served by you. And I'm really, really, really excited for you. And I hope that just everyone out there listening to this conversation, many of you too are meant to step into some sort of local governance position, or just getting more civically minded and just in more service. It gets you out of your own drama. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that, Sazha? Like service as a medicine and as a way to get you out of your own way, basically.
Absolutely. And I love that that is a part of our Kundalini community, because that's been a part of my life and my culture. It's been a part of the Navy, and it's been a part of my recovery. And then now, looking at my political career, it's all going to be that thread of getting out of yourself and doing something for someone else. It's just a feeling of where you can connect with humanity again, where you stop thinking about yourself. And that's one of the first things that they tell people in recovery, that we want to be of service. So to my veterans out there that miss being of service, and then all my folks in recovery that are in like service, this is this thread of humanity that brings us all together, that if we're not doing it, there's probably something missing in your life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are, they're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and then there's these chronic depressions. I know that the recovery community is suffering so much right now, just in terms of how many people are relapsing. I think this is something that's not being talked about enough in these lockdowns. How many people we're losing from relapse and suicide right now? I bet the numbers would very much surprise you, and not you, but of many people. And so this kind of black hole that we're trying to fill up with more stuff, more. This is filled up by service. I mean, it's just a truth of the universe.
I had a friend who runs a program in Colorado, and he said two of his students checked themselves into a psychiatric hospital. They checked themselves into a psychiatric hospital. And that's how serious it is out there today. That for a lot of people, recovery means life or death. And same with our veterans, right? Suicides have been up 300%. And we're not getting enough connection to the VA hospitals, to our folks in recovery. So anyone that does know anyone, if it's a neighbor or a friend or someone, just reach out, ask them how you are. It's a tough time.
It's a tough time. And, one of I can't remember which, this comes from one of, Yogi Bhajan always had these kind of axioms of the age, this new era. But one of them in one of these lists is, and it's always affected me. I think it's maybe what the laws of success, but is, don't wait for someone to reach out to you, even if you're mad at someone, or even if you don't like know someone that well, or I don't know, just all these weird reasons why we don't reach out to people. But you be the first to reach out. You be the first to reach out. And I've been thinking a lot about that and praying and meditating on it, because I think in these times it is so important.
Well, that's actually what I did. So, I was really afraid about COVID and what was going on with COVID. And there are some friends that I haven't reached out to, and some friends that we're now friends over silly things. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to die, I'm going to die with a clean slate. And I want to let these people know that I love them. And that's kind of the way of the world right now, that we don't know how crazy it is. So I want everyone to know that I love them. And now I'm connected with one of my best friends back in Louisiana, and like, same old laughs and jokes like it was like 4 years ago. So you never know, like, if someone needs you or if you're thinking about someone, just reach out.
Yeah, thank you. And I think also just in our neighborhoods as well, like I think like where I live in LA, there's all this kind of suburban drama all the time where like, especially now everyone's home. If you leave your fucking trash can on the curb for like 1 hour too long, or you park, 1 foot into somebody's, public parking, they don't even own the parking spot. They're, freaking out and I'm just like, I have such a judgment of these people because I'm like, you have no idea like the what it means to be like a good neighbor and be kind. I mean, this is part of why Christ taught these teachings as a basis of Christianity. I'm not saying that all Christians follow them, but the Christ teachings are, be a good neighbor and love thy neighbor as thyself. Like those types of kind of just fundamental teachings. I mean, these are lost in our kind of bubble that people live in now.
And it's so funny, right? Because that's what they teach in the recovery community too. But you shouldn't have to go through a time of drugs and alcohol and being addicted to learn basic humanity. And that I went through the recovery process, I was just like, everyone should get these tools and these teachings. So where are we lost in humanity that we don't we are not humans anymore?
And that, I mean, I think that that's the big kind of agenda is like, forget the robot that's going to, a friend of mine told me that they ordered something on Postmates and a drone drove their juice to them and they went out and like opened a drone juice thing and got the juice out. And I'm like, wait a second. The drone like drove on the a road. I mean, because it was like a little like juice drone. I don't know. Like he showed me a video, and I was like, oh my, this is the world that we're living. This is so. But everyone's so afraid of kind of that dystopia. But what about the dystopia of humans not even acting human anymore because we're so hybridized from the technology addictions and just our narcissism and our constant focus on ourselves. I mean, that's what I think we should be concerned about way more than the robot, driving your juice.
Well, the robot will probably have a conversation with you, right? We see it if you live in a city, you are on a train and no one's talking. And, I used to do this experiment with myself when I lived in DC, that I would actually put my phone down and like, I was actually trying to make friends in DC and like make myself look available and talking with people, and no one would talk to me.
No.
And DC was one of the hardest places that I could find recovery folks. So I'm so happy to be back home in New Jersey. But for me, even as much of an extrovert as I am, I still had trouble connecting with humans.
Yeah. No, DC is notorious. I mean, it's a PowerPoint, so you're getting like a lot of polarity there. But yeah, it's a fascinating place. My husband's never been to DC, and I'm like, okay, we got to go to DC because it's such a. I mean, what a geo. I mean, you talk about one of the biggest PowerPoints on the planet is Washington DC, and so people are very odd there.
I did a lot of observing and a lot of just looking at behavior for the person that was there. There's a certain type of person that's there, and I might end up there again, but I don't think I'm going to end up like what normal people look like there.
Yeah. No, I think that you and many of your soon-to-be colleagues, this is, I think, if nothing else has happened for anybody who is awake enough to get the call of destiny, I do feel that we're going to have some major humanity coming into politics more and more, and I'm holding out for that vision as well as just into service. And I want to thank you for all the service that you're doing. I know it's tireless, and I know that you're one of those people who I love. You work all the time, and you love what you do, and you're always looking for ways to serve more. And I wanna thank you for that.
Thank you, Guru Jagat, for just leading the way for me, for changing the way that I've thought about my own life and just inspiring me every day just by showing up. We talk about that in recovery, just show up.
Yeah,
And it's been hard. It's been hard for me
yeah,
too.
yeah.
But you do it, and you've been a role model for me in that way. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And how do people participate? How do people donate? How do people get involved with all the great work you're doing?
Yes, you can reach out to me directly at Sazha, Sazha, at recoveryorganization.com. I will help any veteran who needs help. You can just let me know, and I'll do anything I can with the resources that I have. If you would like access to the fund, you can also email me there. And then I'm also on Instagram, Sazha.Alexandra. You can find me there. I'm accessible. I want to talk with you all. I want to share ideas, and I'm ready for the new world.
Amazing. And are you looking for anything in particular in terms of the political as you gear up for this run? Is there any support that you need that somebody here might be listening and be like, I do that, or I would love to help? Can you just run us through that?
Absolutely. I'm always looking for someone to take me through the strategy. I think that's really important. Timing is very important. And I want to be the most effective to my community. So if there is any experience, people that have been in campaigns, have ran before, I'd love to just learn from you and the ways that I can continue to serve. You can reach out to me at Sasha at Recovery Organization, DM me on Instagram. I won't give you guys my phone number, but if you want it, just DM me. I want to talk with people, and I think we're getting to a place where the change is coming.
Incredible. Well, we're here at Rama TV and Rama Global. We are campaigning for you, and we're going to be there by your side as you continue to do the great things that you're doing in the world. And bless you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Guru Jagat.
Satnam. Bye, Sasha. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Reality Riffing. These are conversations that I think are important with people who are doing great things in the world about subject matters that need to be discussed. If you enjoyed the content, the conversation, please feel free to share with your people, share with your friends and family, rate the podcast below, and also subscribe.
a doing word, fearless on my breath, gentle impulsation makes me lighter, fearless on my breath, teardrop on the fire, fearless on my breath, teardrop on the fire, fearless on my breath. teardrop